of right now, we understand that audit risk is the risk that the auditor issues an inappropriate opinion when the financial statements are materially misstated. We know what audit risk is. Audit risk is a function of two things: risk of material misstatement and detection risk. Those two things, right? There being a material misstatement in the financial statements or the auditor not detecting a material misstatement is going to affect audit risk, right? Risk of material misstatement is going to be affected by control risk. If the controls aren't working well, guess what? There's likely a higher likelihood that there's going to be a error in the financial statements, maybe even the material one. If there's high inherent risk, same thing. Detection risk, we said last week, is a function of the auditor's procedures and how well they do those procedures. If the auditor's procedures are horrible, are they going to detect a material misstatement? No. If the auditor doesn't do very good procedures very well, they could also not detect the material misstatement as well. We define inherent risk. Control risk is a function of how well the controls work to detect a material misstatement or prevent a material misstatement is a function of what? So it's two things, right? So if you're ever asked this question, you cannot write effectiveness. That's going to be wrong every time. First part is design effectiveness. Second part is operating effectiveness. Imagine it like this. The risk is, or the issue for the client is, and our client is Rutgers, the issue is unauthorized individuals can enter the Rutgers, or enter inside of the Rutgers Business School building. That's the problem. That's the issue. So Rutgers has they're like, we need to come up with a control to prevent that. We're going to come up with a preventative control to prevent unauthorized individuals from entering into the Rutgers Business School building, like all the way into the floor, right? So they say, here's our procedure. We're going to give every executive assistant and every secretary 2 weeks off. If that control works, like every secretary gets 2 weeks off, every executive assistant gets 2 weeks off, will it be effective at preventing unauthorized individuals from entering this building? Will giving secretaries 2 weeks off prevent unauthorized individuals from coming into this building? No, right? Those two things have nothing to do with each other. So that control is not designed effectively. So design effectiveness says, even if the control works, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, right? Even if it works, even if secretaries get 2 weeks off, will it prevent or detect the risk or the issue that it's designed to detect, right? That's design effectiveness. Operating effectiveness. Let's say that the risk is that unauthorized individuals come into professors' offices after hours, after 9 p.m. Campus should be closed. The risk is that unauthorized individuals come into a professor's room. So you would be considered an unauthorized individual because you don't have a key to my room, right? The risk is that you come into my office, I'm not there, after 9 p.m. So Rutgers says that to help prevent that from happening, they have a procedure where every time we leave our office, we have to lock the door. Then at 9:15, a security officer comes around and checks every door to make sure it's locked. If I lock my door after I leave and a security guard comes and checks every door to make sure it's locked after 9 p.m., will that effectively prevent unauthorized individuals from entering my office? Yeah. Again, controls aren't 100%. Could somebody break down the door? Yeah, of course, right? But is it effective at doing what it's supposed to do? Yeah. So in that case, it's designed effectively. Does that make sense? Now, what if I don't lock my door, right? That control is still designed effectively. It's just not working because I didn't do it. So that would be an operating effectiveness problem. That would be a problem of, is the control working? So design effectiveness, operating effectiveness. Auditors don't test design effectiveness. Wouldn't make sense. If I know that the control to prevent unauthorized individuals from coming into this campus is that secretaries get 2 weeks off, why would I check to see if secretaries get 2 weeks off? Like, they don't test that. If it's not designed effectively, they're not going to test it. They already know that control's not properly designed. Therefore, it can't prevent or detect what it's supposed to do, right? So if it's not designed off top, control risk is going to be higher. But let's say they do have a properly designed control, and it's, how would the auditor know if it's working or not? They would have to literally test that control. They have to go and test it to see if it's working. Maybe they reperform it. Maybe they inspect logs and documents. We'll talk about it more when we get into the internal control chapter. But control risk is affected by, or is a function of, two things: design effectiveness of internal controls, operating effectiveness of internal controls. What about detection risk? Function of what two things, or is affected by what two things? Exactly, the auditor's procedures and how well, or you could say the performance of those procedures. Detection risk is a function of what two things? We entered it last week, but like I told you guys, this class builds on itself. So everything that we did last week, we need to bring it to this week and next week. And so detection risk is the risk that either the auditor's procedures are horrible. Let's just say extremes, right? They're horrible. So if they have really bad procedures, are they going to be effective at finding material misstatements? No. What if you work for KPMG and they have great procedures, but I'm a little tired today because I stayed out late last night, right? I'm not going to be effective performing those procedures. Therefore, I could overlook some material misstatements. So how the performance of the procedures or the procedures themselves affect detection risk. The effectiveness of the design or the effectiveness of the operations of controls affect control risk.